morning, everybody. It's me. I haven't died yet, but I want to put this slideshow out here for you. And as you go through it, you're going to see on the slide itself the vocabulary that I am covering in the slide. Now, some of this I covered in my lecture on Tuesday. So and all of this is on your vocabulary list, and then there may be one or two things that are not on your vocabulary list and you're going to be responsible for. So pay attention to that as you go through this slide by slide. So the first thing I want to remind you is that Congress has the lowest rating of approval from the American people. As a rule, the American people at this point do not like Congress very much. And the reason is they don't believe that their member of Congress represents them. They believe that the members of Congress are beholden to the special interest groups who give them millions of dollars for their campaigns. And so that's one of the things I want you to keep in the back of your mind. So let's go. I'm going to go very quickly because you can stop this and look at the slide and listen to it over and over. So here we go. Okay, you should already know everything that's on here. We talked about that. Look at the second bullet under House of Representatives. This is just something that's good to know. You do not call them Representative Smith. You say Congressman Smith or Congresswoman Smith. The other thing that I want you to listen to very carefully, and it's not bulleted on the slide, is this. A term of Congress is 2 years. And then within that 2-year period, they break up into 2 individual sessions. So a term of Congress is 2 years, and then it's broken down into 2 sessions of 1 year each. Now in class, we talked about the fact that the House of Representatives, of course, is based on the census. Now the census is held every 10 years, and the purpose of the census is to count all of the people who live in the United States and then divide up the country for representation. Now, after the census, you're going to have something called reapportionment. You're going to redivide the 435 districts. Now that number, 435, is a permanent number regardless of how big the United States gets population-wise. So there's a lot of shuffling going on, and some states lose representatives and some states gain representatives. And so what you have then is this idea of population shifts, and I'm going to talk about that on a slide. Now, this slide has quite a few sentences on it. Some of this you already know. Now, another word for reapportionment, and be sure you're aware of this, is redistricting. Because remember, they're redrawing the single member districts. So if you see redistricting, that's reapportionment. Now, we know that it happens every 10 years. And it says, why does the United States House have to be redistricted? Well, the Constitution says, if you'll look at that, the last part, it says, in the 1960s, interpreted the Constitution to require that each U.S. House district have equal numbers of people. And so what they're trying to do is take this number of, say, 20 million, and they have to divide it by, I think the number they're going by now is 900,000. So, and that number I think is pretty set. So every district is supposed to have as close to 900,000 as possible. Now, in some of the larger states like Texas, it could be well over 1 million. That's just how that works. Now, the last thing that is really important is who does the redistricting? Well, it's the state legislatures who do the redistricting. So this will be done by the Texas legislature that's in Austin, and they will then divide up and do the reapportionment for the state of Texas. Now, once again, this has quite a bit of information on it. So population means, when there's population shifts, that means more power. Now, what I want you to know when it says more power, put this in your notes, is that they get more representatives. And the more representatives you have in a state, that means that you get more for your state. And this statement will make much more sense to you after several more lectures. So, for example, there's a reason Texas has great highways, great medical facilities, that Texas has lots and lots of parks, etc. It's because we have 38 people in the Congress of the United States. Now take that, for example, with Louisiana, which maybe has 10. Well, we have more clout. We have more ability to get things done in Congress. So population shifts equals more representatives. And the population shift is happening to the South. When we talk about the South, we've talked about this before. And the South is called the Sun Belt because there's no snow most times to close us down, no ice storms to close us down. You know, we worry about a hurricane every now and then. And so much of the power that is in the Congress of the United States is now happening from the southern states. And Texas is one of those southern states. Now, the majority party in the state, Republican or Democrat, whichever political party has more people in the state legislature, they're going to control the redistricting. So Texas currently has a Republican majority in the Austin legislature. So those folks are going to try to protect any member of the House of Representatives that is a Republican. Did you get that? And we're going to talk about that in this slideshow, and then I'm going to go over it again, and then I'll give you some more clues. Now, this redistricting and this trying to protect their party ends up being called gerrymandering. Not gerrymandering, gerrymandering. Now, let me give you a definition of gerrymandering. Gerrymandering is the drawing of congressional districts to favor one racial or political group or isolate one racial or political group. So there's two things that's going on. They're going to try to protect a political group or race, or they're going to try to isolate the political group or race. Now, I'm going to go over this in class when we come back on Tuesday. So if you don't quite understand it, I'll make sure that it's clearer to you. So let's go to the next slide right quick. Now, this is an example of gerrymandering. And once again, I'm going to go over this in class, but I want you to look at Congressional District number 2 on the left. The green is this person's district. Now, y'all, I want you to look, okay? Start at the bottom. There's Surprise, Utah. And then you move up and see look at all those people. Look, 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 look. And then you start moving to the left. And can you see that little green line? What is that? Look how they've squiggled that around. Do you see that? Is that not amazing? Now, that's done on purpose for whatever reason. So, and this will make sense to you after I talk to you on Tuesday. But look how stupid that is. Just my opinion. So let's move on. Now, we've already covered this information. So I just put this slide on here to remind you about what I talked about on Tuesday. Look at the notes and then look at the slide and then check your notes. You should have all of this already. Now, these are the requirements for a senator. I think you should have everything. Pay attention. I never said this out loud, but look at the third bullet. Members of the Senate serve for 6-year terms. And they are elected in what we call staggered elections. Now, all that means is that every 2 years, 33 senators are up for re-election for 6 years. Then the next 2 years, another 33. So they're unlike the House. Remember, in the House of Representatives, all representatives are up for re-election, all of them. But in the Senate, it's only 33 at a time. Here are your basic requirements to be a senator of the United States. We've already done that. I talked about this in class. Remember, this is called the incumbency factor. An incumbent is someone who's trying to get re-elected. Now, for the years and years, approximately 90% of the members of Congress are up for re-elected year after year. That is an incredibly high number. And as I told you in class, it's not because they do a great job. Number one reason is because most members of the United States who can vote do not pay attention to these elections. They have no interest in these elections. And so what you have is a very small group of voters, usually, who are voting for these people. And those, remember, we talked about the ideologues, okay? Now, what happened then is, the other thing that happens is these midterm elections kind of come and go, and people have no clue that they're happening. So that's one reason why that members of the United States Congress are continually elected over and over. The lack of interest, the lack of knowledge in midterm elections. Now, there's some other reasons that these people get elected over and over. The first one is called casework or constituency service. Casework is when a member of Congress will do favors for the people they represent. Now, it is something as simple as greeting 8th graders when they come to Washington on a field trip and they go to the member of Congress's office and he gives them a Dr. Pepper and a pen. It can be something as serious as your grandpa has not gotten his pension from the Army and he needs it desperately. Well, you could contact your member, your representative, and they would help your grandpa get his check. Now, this happens because members of both the House and the Senate have district offices that you and I pay for. And their district offices, you can go in there anytime. They have staff that helps them and works with them. And that's where you would go to see your grandpa. To get your grandpa's check. I'm sorry. Then a third thing is something we call name recognition. All you have to do when you're a member of the House or the Senate is you get your name out there for whatever reason. You show up and speak at graduations. You show up at barbecues and picnics. You get free television time at Christmas to say, "Merry Christmas from Joe Blow and his family. We love you very much. I'm your representative from District 8. Start watching on the holidays, and that's what you're going to see. So they get all of this name recognition, and so many people go to vote. They don't know who's running, but they think they need to go vote. So they're standing in the voting booth, and they go, "Ow, I recognize that name. I'll choose him." That's really how it happens. So ignorance does happen in the voting booth. Now, another thing that gives them name recognition is what we call the franking privilege. Now, this is free postage stamps. Now, in this day and age, most of us I don't use a postage stamp but maybe once every month. But think about older people. They're retired. They're not comfortable with the internet. They still go to the bank. They still pay their bills with paper. Well, every 3 months, members of the United States Congress send out newsletters. Now, you will get these letters in your mailbox if you're a voter, but most people throw it away. But if you get one, you open it up, and it's got, "Hi, I'm your congressman. I love you. Vote for me. I do things for you. Vote for me. I love you." See, then when these old people who we know vote all the time, they go to vote, guess what? Name recognition. See how that works? It's very interesting. And then, of course, another reason for the incumbency that we talked about before is low voter turnout.